Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 8 Part 32 based on novel. So let's start. Would it be possible to borrow your Sky Hall's Heavenly Phoenix zither for a few days? When Lin Dong made his request, a few shades of embarrassment appeared on his face. In fact, after he saw a tinge of bewilderment flash across that young lady's charming face, he felt even more embarrassed. You are saying that you want to borrow the Heavenly Phoenix zither? Ying Huan involuntarily raised her brows. With regards to Lin Dong's request, she naturally felt extremely surprised. After all, she knew how precious a pure yuan treasure was, and it was an object that even some Sky Hall disciples could not look at. However, Lin Dong actually wanted to borrow it. If it was another person making this request, she would have most likely asked him to dream on. Yes. Lin Dong summoned his courage and nodded. Looking at that young lady's knitted brows and her bright and beautiful eyes, he could not help but laugh bitterly before saying, I urgently require that item. Senior teacher Uncle Chi Lei will not agree. The Heavenly Phoenix zither is a precious treasure of the Sky Hall after all. At times, even if a sect elder wishes to borrow it, Senior teacher Uncle Chi Lei would not agree. Ying Huan said after pondering for a while with knitted eyebrows. Therefore, I can only ask this of you, Lin Dong said in an awkward manner. You want me to help you to obtain it through the back door? The young lady replied as she gently raised her beautiful face. As sunlight shone down from above, it formed a halo that was akin to a beeswax candle glow around her, causing the young lady to look especially alluring. But why should I be so kind to you? The young lady twirled a lock of her fine black hair with her jade-like hands, before smiling sweetly at Lin Dong and asked in an innocent and puzzled manner. Facing the young lady's gifted gab, Lin Dong found it hard to manage and could only helplessly reply, I've helped your elder sister to obtain the commanding authority. That should count for something, right? Ying Huan muttered as she earnestly pondered for a while before nodding her head and saying in an absent-minded manner, however, I recall a certain boorish and rude fellow during the whole competition. Therefore, your small contribution is only enough for me to forgive your behavior during the whole competition. With the matter of Little Flame hanging in his heart, and after being provoked by Ying Huan for a few times, a small bit of anger unknowingly sprouted within Lin Dong's heart. He frowned and was just about to lose his temper, but managed to forcibly suppress it in the end. After all, Ying Huan did not owe him anything. Moreover, his request was truly a little overboard. When his thoughts reached such a point, Lin Dong could not help but to feel his interest waning. It seemed like he would have to think of another way to resolve this issue. Hey, are you mad? When she saw Lin Dong's expression change, the playful expression on Ying Huan's beautiful face receded somewhat as she asked cautiously. No, Lin Dong forced a smile and shook his head, before replying, never mind, I'll not trouble you anymore. I will think of another way. I never said I will not help you. Moreover, why doesn't your face show even a hint taking offense? You're a grown man, however, your identity is completely at odds with the way you speak, muttered Ying Huan. However, her big eyes involuntarily still glanced at Lin Dong's expression. It's not like I refuse to help you. And look at that face of yours, it's as if you aren't concerned about it. How can a man like you go back on his word? You have a way. Lin Dong awkwardly shrugged before asking. Ying Huan's jet black eyes seemed to rotate a little, before she waved at Lin Dong, follow me. After which, she turned around and swiftly floated away like a butterfly. Lin Dong hesitated for a moment, before quickly following behind. The two of them rapidly shuttled within the gigantic Sky Hall. After 10 minutes, they had obviously entered the inner regions of Sky Hall. At this area, the security was very tight. However, with Ying Huan leading the way, the two of them were not stopped. We've arrived, said Ying Huan, before she suddenly stopped in front of an extensive and vast hall. Present was a layer of light that was shaped like a bowl, which enveloped the entire great hall within. Lin Dong looked at the light barrier in front of him. From it, he was able to sense a frightening fluctuation. It seems like this great hall must be an important place in Sky Hall. Else, there would be no need for such a valiant protection. With a wave of her jade-like hand, a piece of white jade flew out from her palm. When it touched the light barrier, it immediately provoked a violent reaction from the latter. Finally, after the ripples spread, it turned into a light door. Let's go. Ying Huan carefully and cautiously looked at her surroundings before scuttling into the light barrier. Pushing open the big doors of the Great Hall, she proceeded to walk in. Behind her, Lin Dong was also closely following her every step of the way. The Great Hall was extremely vast and there were quite a few gigantic pillars within it. The surface of those pillars were filled with abstruse runes, which faintly resembled a giant array. Lin Dong's gaze swept across the interior of the Great Hall for a round before suddenly congealing in the middle of the Great Hall. At that spot, stood a pillar of jade, and on top of it, sat a fiery red zither. Present on the surface of the zither were pictures of phoenixes flapping their wings. From afar, it looked like the wings were oscillating, similar to a seedling of fire in ascension. A frightening fluctuation slowly radiated out from within it, causing traces of spatial distortion in the surrounding space. "Is that the heavenly phoenix zither?" asked Lin Dong as his eyes continued to fixate on the fiery red zither. There was a tinge of joy in his eyes that could not be concealed. After all, only a pure yuan treasure could give off such a frightening fluctuation. "Yes." Ying Huan replied while nodding her head before continuing, "We can secretly take it away and return it after we are done." "Steal it?" Lin Dong was shocked. "Don't tell me you really want to ask senior teacher Uncle Chi Lei for permission? There is no way he would agree. Even if you ask my father to plead on your behalf, it would still be of no use." Ying Huan rolled her eyes at Lin Dong before waving her jade-like hand. Curling her lips, she said, "Relax, if we run into any problems, I will shoulder it. I don't want somebody to lose his temper again." Lin Dong was now completely filled with embarrassment. He could only laugh bitterly while shaking his head. Finally, he told her sincerely, "Thank you. There's no need." Hearing his words, Ying Huan beamed like a little fox. Typically, Lin Dong always had a devil-may-care attitude. However, he had revealed his helpless expression a couple of times in front of her today. While she was smiling, Ying Huan faintly tilted her head and used her bright and big eyes to stare at Lin Dong before saying, "Furthermore, elder sister asked me to tell this to you. She said that at the moment when you took the initiative to hand over the commanding authority, you looked utterly dazzling. I'm not good with that. If I kept it, I might recklessly use it and mislead all those seniors and juniors. Senior sister Xiao is much better in that aspect. Thus, that position should naturally belong to those who deserve it," said Lin Dong with a smile. Ying Huan pursed her lip and smiled, before extending her jade-like hands and suddenly forming a seal. In the next moment, the heavenly phoenix zither floated from the stone pillar before finally descending into her arms. "Let's leave and return quickly," said Ying Huan as she smiled while hugging the heavenly phoenix zither. Are you coming along as well?" Lin Dong looked at the young lady in astonishment before he involuntarily asked. "Although I don't know why you need the heavenly phoenix zither, but let me tell you this. I am the next owner of the heavenly phoenix zither. Therefore, the only person that can control it would be me. Unless that person is powerful enough to erase away the mark left by my father within," replied Ying Huan as she grinned and stared at Lin Dong while hugging the heavenly phoenix zither. Lin Dong was completely speechless. At little Martin's current strength, it was obviously that he would not be able to erase the mark left by Ying Xuanzi. "Do you have any more questions?" asked Ying Huan with a beautiful smile as she tilted her head and looked at Lin Dong, who had already shriveled up countless times in front of her. "Nothing." Lin Dong hesitated for a while before finally giving a bitter laugh and nodded his head. As he turned around and left the Great Hall, Ying Huan looked at his back before a cunning glint flashed across her big eyes. After this, she leisurely followed behind him. After the two of them left, the Great Hall was once again silent. A few minutes later, the space above a stone pillar started to squirm before two figures slowly appeared. From their appearances, they were precisely Ying Xuanzi and Sky Hall Master, Chi Lei. "That lass." Chi Lei looked down at that empty stone pillar before his face twitched. Finally, he involuntarily blurted out, "Sect Master, we just going to allow 2 juniors to take the Heavenly Phoenix Siddha out of Dao Sect? Relax, have some confidence in them. Just treat it as if they are going out to train for once. Moreover, there is a brand on the Heavenly Phoenix Siddha. If a major accident occurs, I will be able to detect it," said Ying Xuanzi as he faintly smiled. Hearing what Ying Xuanzi said, Ji Lei could only nod his head. Promptly, he didn't know whether to laugh or to cry as he said, "That lass Huan Huan, she is a disciple of our Sky Hall. Yet, she actually helped Lin Dong to steal a treasure from her own house. What is going on? It seems like that lass." Ying Xuanzi gave a faint smile. However, he did not say anything more about this topic. With a wave of his sleeve, the 2 of them once again slowly disappeared from the top of the stone pillar. On the outskirts of the sect, at the edge of the sect protection Great Array Light Barrier, there was a sudden ripple as 2 figures secretly sneaked out from within. Hugging the fiery red Heavenly Phoenix Siddha while her big eyes surveyed her surroundings, Ying Huan Huan grinned and said, "Hee, we were actually able to leave undiscovered." In contrast to Ying Huan Huan's optimistic attitude, Lin Dong started to wrinkle his brows. He was cautious by nature. Hence, he naturally found it incredulous that they were actually able to steal a Pu Yuan treasure and still swagger out of Dao Sect, which was heavily fortified and filled with countless experts. Moreover, they were not caught by a single person. Could it be that all the old fellows in Dao Sect were asleep? Evidently, there was no way those old fellows would all be asleep. Therefore, Lin Dong did not believe that their actions had gone undetected. Rather, someone should have likely realized what happened. However, they chose not to stop them. Reflecting on this point, Lin Dong secretly rejoiced in his heart. It was fortunate that he had brought Ying Huan Huan along. Given her status and background in Dao Sect, perhaps those old fellows might be willing to look the other way. Naturally, within all of this, Ying Xuanzi's influence must not be discounted. Secretly heaving a sigh of relief, Lin Dong turned around, faced Dao Sect and respectfully saluted. Upon seeing his action, Ying Huan Huan gawked first, before sticking out her tongue. It seems like she understood the reason behind his actions. After saluting, he turned around again. Promptly, his body faintly trembled before a pair of green dragon wings stretched out from his back. With a flap, huge gales followed. "Come here," said Lin Dong as he looked at Ying Huan Huan and extended his hands towards her. "Why?" Ying Huan Huan hugged the Heavenly Phoenix Siddha and walked over with some suspicion. In the next moment, she turned somewhat panicky when she saw that Lin Dong had unexpectedly extended his hands and embraced her slender waist. Ying Huan Huan seemingly jumped in fright due to Lin Dong's actions. Only when his manly scent assaulted her senses, did she finally regain her clarity. Immediately, she used the Heavenly Phoenix Siddha to shield her body while she stared at Lin Dong with a boiling red expression on her face. "I am much faster, so it would be best if I carried you directly. It is a long distance away from Thousand Beasts Mountain Range to Dao Sect," said Lin Dong as he looked slightly helplessly at the young lady with a reddened face. Ying Huan Huan's big eyes stared at Lin Dong, seemingly wanting to detect any malicious intent within his eyes. However, in the end, she did not discover any malicious intent as she only saw the helplessness brimming within his eyes. "If you dare to mess around, I'll take the Heavenly Phoenix Siddha and return to Dao Sect," mumbled Ying Huan Huan in a low voice. "Relax, I have no interest in a silly little girl like you," replied Lin Dong as he rolled his eyes towards her. Without saying any more nonsense, he wrapped her up in his embrace. With a flap of his green dragon wings, they turned into a flash of light before they flew off. "Miss, you a dog? Why are you biting me? That's for speaking nonsense. You are the silly little girl." As the flash of light shot into the distance, an indistinct overbearing voice of a young lady transmitted across the skies. The Thousand Beasts Mountain Range was situated in the southern part of Eastern Xian region. It required approximately half a month's time to travel from Dao Sect to that region. However, as Lin Dong's current speed had undoubtedly increased substantially, they barely took a week before the vast and extensive mountain range appeared in front of their eyes. As the name implied, the Thousand Beasts Mountain Range was the gathering point for demonic beasts. Although the number of demonic beasts was not as terrifying as those in the Demon City, there were also numerous powerful and formidable demonic beast strongholds scattered across eastern Xian region. This Thousand Beasts mountain range was one of them. It was said that this mountain range was never lacking in strong demonic beasts at profound life stage. Those beings were able to take on human form and possess intelligence that rivaled humans. Hence, most ordinary individuals would not dare to provoke them. As Lin Dong gradually approached the enormous Thousand Beasts mountain range, he was able to feel the demonic spirit brand left within his body by little Martin starting to radiate a faint vibration. Lin Dong could feel the direction indicated by the fluctuation from the demonic spirit brand. With a flap of his dragon wings, he shot towards it. After close to 10 minutes, his pupils hardened when he finally spotted two familiar figures that he had not seen for a long time, on a mountaintop in the far distance. Big Brother. Before Lin Dong started to descend on the mountain peak, a figure that was sturdy like an iron tower stood up impatiently before his vigorous voice transmitted like muffled thunder from the distance. With Ying Huan in his arms, Lin Dong flew towards the mountain peak before he placed her down. Staring in front of him, he saw two figures standing upright. The person on the left was a man dressed in green robe with a bewitching and handsome appearance. At the moment, he still had his familiar lazy expression on his face. However, when he glanced at Lin Dong could detect a twinkle in his eye. The figure beside little Martin was the enormous and extremely visually impactful Little Flame. There were quite a few crisscrossed eye-piercing scars and bruises on his body as compared to before. These few scars and bruises faintly added a malevolent and fiendish aura to Little Flame. If he restrained the silly laughter on his face upon seeing Lin Dong, he would definitely look like an extremely menacing and powerful individual. Yo, not bad, you have improved quite a bit. Looks like you didn't waste the time spent in Dao Sect, said little Martin with his eyebrows raised, after sweeping his eyes across Lin Dong's body. Lin Dong walked forward without paying attention to him and looked at Little Flame, before a somewhat astonished expression rushed forth from within his eyes. He realized that Little Flame could currently match up to an 8 Nirvana stage expert. He was personally taught by Grandpa Martin. Of course, he won't be weaker than you, said little Martin with a self-satisfied smug after seeing the shocked expression on Lin Dong's face. His usual tone was still as infuriating as before. Not bad, said Lin Dong, patting the shoulders of Little Flame while nodding his head in satisfaction. Looks like it was right for Little Flame to follow little Martin. If he had stayed in Dao Sect, Little Flame would not have reached this level yet. It was all thanks to Second Brother's help. He brought me to quite a few places. Little Flame honestly and straightforwardly shook his head. This ominous tiger that was so savage and cruel that it caused anyone to be absolutely terrified, was actually behaving in such a silly fashion in front of Lin Dong. This caused little Martin to be unable to bear as he covered his face and sighed in disappointment. Typically, Little Flame would always follow his lead, however, it was absolutely different from the implicit faith that he had in Lin Dong. Lin Dong gave a smile before finally looking at little Martin and saying, "How much of your strength have you regained? It shouldn't be a problem to deal with practitioners at advanced profound life stage," said little Martin indifferently as an arc appeared on his bewitchingly beautiful face. Advanced profound life stage. Lin Dong faintly nodded his head. Senior teacher Uncle Chen should also be at this stage. Looks like during this period of time, little Martin had indeed recovered quite a bit of his old powers. Why is there a girl with you? Why did you bring her here? I seemingly recalled that she didn't really fancy you, right? Said little Martin with a little astonishment after his eyes suddenly landed on Ying Huan, who was not far behind Lin Dong. Looking at her appearance, he could still remember the attitude that she had shown to Lin Dong on that selection stage. Lin Dong tilted his head and shot a look at the young lady. At this moment she was still at a short distance away from them. Thinking about it, Lin Dong realized that she might have been frightened by the extremely contrasting combination of little Martin and Little Flame. Upon seeing this, he could not resist and smiled. Normally within Dao Sect, this lass was fearless. However, never would Lin Dong imagine that she would become so timid after coming out. Lin Dong called Ying Huan over, before introducing her to them. When little Martin found out that she was actually the daughter of the Dao sect master, a shade of amazement clearly flashed across his handsome face. Evidently, he had never expected that she had such a background. It was all thanks to her that I was able to borrow the heavenly phoenix zither. Else, perhaps there may not be a show, said Lin Dong as he spread his arms. He, looks like that little miss treats you pretty well, said the little Martin with a smirk. Beside him, Ying Huan's face turned red as she sent a sweet smile towards little Martin. Her appearance was so fresh and pure that it made Lin Dong roll his eyes. Who is she acting for? It's good that you managed to obtain the heavenly phoenix zither. It will save us quite a bit of trouble. Those damnable yellow-furred monsters, wait till Grandpa Martin breaks your heavenly sound array. I'll show you how I will deal with you all, exclaimed little Martin with excitement as he brandished his hands. Tell me what is going on first, and what is the object that little Flame discovered, asked Lin Dong after rolling his eyes at little Martin. Relax, that thing is definitely worth your trip here. What is it? Said Lin Dong as he raised his eyebrows. Little Martin gave a self-satisfied smile before a mysterious shade appeared within his eyes. In the next moment, he suppressed his voice before a soft whisper stealthily entered Lin Dong's ears. Earth core spiritual brewing saliva. As the 5 words gently floated into Lin Dong's ears, Lin Dong's pupils immediately contracted while Ying Huan could not resist but release a startled cry. Earth core spiritual brewing saliva. A soft exclamation escaped from Ying Huan's mouth. At the same time, there was a somewhat stunned expression on her pretty face. There were countless natural treasures in the world. These treasures were gifts from nature and they all possessed extremely mysterious powers. This so-called Earth Core spiritual brewing saliva not only possessed the ability to improve one's strength, but more importantly, it also helped one to create a Yuan spirit. It was incredibly miraculous. It should be known that the formation of a Yuan spirit was an event that would only occur near the peak of the Nirvana stage. After all, only after one reached the peak of the 9 Yuan Nirvana stage would the Yuan spirit chi within one's body gradually strengthen. Nonetheless, unless one was truly blessed, one would still be unable to successfully form a Yuan spirit. In fact, most practitioners had to wait till they reached the mysterious life stage. Only by fusing Yuan power and mysterious life chi together, could they successfully form a Yuan spirit. However, all these complicated steps could be greatly simplified by this Earth Core spiritual brewing saliva. Therefore, there was no need to elaborate about its miraculous properties. Should news of such an object spread, it would definitely attract countless experts that wanted to attempt the mysterious life stage. The allure of forming a Yuan spirit was simply too overwhelming. Only by successfully forming a Yuan spirit would one be able to escape from the shackles of one's physical body. Even if one's physical body was destroyed in the future, one would not immediately perish. As long as one had sufficient tricks and a powerful backer, recreating one's physical body was not impossible. You have actually found such an item. Even with Lin Dong's calmness, he could not help but narrow his eyes slightly at this moment while he muttered to himself. The strength of the Yuan spirit force was something that he had personally experienced. His Dragon Yuan ring was formed by Yuan spirit force. Thanks to its power, he defeated Yao Ling and Wang Yang, opponents who were extremely difficult to deal with. Even though the Yuan spirit force was extremely powerful, the current Lin Dong was unable to create such a thing in his body. This was because only by stepping into the 7 Yuan Nirvana stage would one's body begin to produce a small amount of Yuan spirit force. The current Lin Dong was still not at that stage yet. Hence, attempting to form an initial Yuan spirit now was probably an absurd idea. However, the appearance of this Earth Core spiritual brewing saliva would have slowly changed such a whimsical thought into reality. Heh, you interested? Little Martin laughed proudly as he looked at Lin Dong, whose eyes still contained some remnant shock. Such a treasure was not something that one could encounter so easily. Lin Dong smiled slightly before immediately nodding excitedly. Soon, the great sect competition would begin. Before that, he must raise his strength using every means possible. Judging from Ying Xuan's words, he could sense how powerful the Yuan Gate disciples were. Those so-called three little kings were personally taught by the three great sect masters of the Yuan Gate. Although Lin Dong did not openly speak about it, he did feel a little pressured in his heart. After all, the other party not only had the advantage in numbers, but their quality was also top tier. On the other hand, amongst the younger generation disciples in their Dao sect, the only ones who could contend against them were Lin Dong, Ying Xiaoxiao and Wang Yang. Therefore, there was no reason for Lin Dong to give up on this earth-core spiritual brewing saliva that was delivered to him. What are the creatures that are guarding the earth-core spiritual brewing saliva? Lin Dong asked. There is an overlord in this 10,000 beasts mountain range guarding it. That fellow is also a demonic beast and is a yellow golden ghost owl. Its strength is at the initial mysterious life stage. There are also some demonic beasts working under it. The strongest are his two generals, whose strength are around that of 9 Yuan Nirvana stage experts. Little Martin rubbed his chin and said, Yellow golden ghost owl, initial mysterious life stage. Lin Dong was startled for a moment. He asked, It should not be too much of a problem for you, right? Little Martin's current strength was comparable to an advanced mysterious life stage practitioner. Since that yellow golden ghost owl was merely at the initial mysterious life stage, why couldn't he take care of the later? Didn't I mention that the fellow has some special tactics? Little Martin spoke helplessly. A human head owl, it is the owl sonic formation, right? Ying Huanhuan's eyes suddenly flashed as she softly said. Little Martin looked at Ying Huanhuan with some shock. Clearly, he did not expect that this girl would actually be this intelligent. Merely after hearing the words human head owl, she had already deduced everything. Yes, that yellow golden ghost owl had spent quite a great amount of effort to groom over 10,000 human head owl beasts. These owl beasts specialize in sonic wave attacks. Additionally, due to the terrain of the Demon Sound Mountain, the Sky Sonic Formation, which is also called the Owl Sonic Formation, has become extremely powerful. Even I am unable to break through. Little Martin nodded and said, 10,000. Lin Dong was utterly stunned by this number. This yellow golden ghost owl was truly willing to put in the effort. No wonder it was able to become the overlord of this 10,000 beasts mountain range. Little Flame was originally training within this mountain range. A few days ago, the Owl Sonic Formation was inactive and he had barged in by mistake. In the end, he discovered the Earth Core spiritual brewing saliva hidden within the Demon Sound Mountain. However, this fellow was eventually discovered by that yellow golden ghost owl. That beast is truly vicious. Moreover, his strength clearly surpassed Little Flame, yet, he brought over a dozen subordinates to play with this foolish tiger. In the end, dozens of his bones were broken. If it was not because I eventually managed to hurry over, this foolish tiger would have been turned into roast meat. A sharp glint clearly appeared within Little Martin's eyes when he spoke until this point. He glared at Little Flame and scolded the latter in a resentful manner because the latter had failed to meet his expectations. Useless fellow. Little Flame scratched his head and gave Lin Dong a silly smile. This time around, however, Lin Dong had sensed a surging ferocity deep within the former's eyes. So ruthless, huh? Lin Dong patted Little Flame. His face had quite a brilliant smile surfacing on it. From the side, Ying Huanhuan glanced at him. She knew that this fellow was truly pissed off. How shall we do it? Little Martin looked at Lin Dong and asked. What do you mean? Lin Dong knitted his brows. Soon after, he clapped his hands together and declared, soak the Demon Sound Mountain in blood. These words had just been spoken when a baleful aura that had been suppressed within Lin Dong's body finally erupted at this moment. That baleful aura was many times stronger than Wang Yang. I was waiting for those words. Little Martin curled his lips. His handsome face was immediately covered with a demonic aura. Beside them, Little Flame nodded immediately. That metal tower body of his had some brutalness spreading from it at this moment, causing one to feel palpitations in one's heart upon seeing him. Ying Huanhuan glanced at the trio as she quietly marveled, they are indeed brothers. Their ferocious auras appeared as though they had originated from the same source. Leave the Owl Sonic Formation to me. Ying Huanhuan gently beckoned with her hand. A fiery red heavenly phoenix zither flashed and appeared in her hands. A shocking ripple spread from it. Even little Martin involuntarily threw his eyes over. At this moment, the young lady's hand was touching the zither string. She raised her head and smiled sweetly at Lin Dong. "Can you do it?" Lin Dong was a little worried. Ying Huan's current strength might be at the 8 yuan nirvana stage, but that owl sonic formation was something that even little Martin could do nothing against. Everything has a weakness. The owl sonic formation is strong, but my heavenly phoenix zither is its Achilles heel. Ying Huan spoke proudly. "Hehe, you are bold. This girl's age is similar to that girl Suruo, but her character is much tougher." Little Martin smilingly said. "Suruo?" Ying Huan's eyes rotated a little. Her big eyes looked at Lin Dong. "A friend." Lin Dong sensed that there seemed to be something not quite right with Ying Huan's expression. However, he did not care. He merely casually replied before turning around to look at little Martin. He said, "Let's go. We should head to the Demon Sound Mountain." Little Martin nodded. Without wasting any more time, his body moved, transforming into a ray of light that rushed towards the deep parts of this spacious mountain range. Lin Dong, Little Flame, and Ying Huan closely followed from behind. The group of four had quite a vast and mighty aura. Soon after Lin Dong's group traveled towards the deeper parts of the 10,000 Beasts mountain range, some rushing wind sounds were being transmitted from the sky on the other side of the mountain range. A moment later, three figures came drifting over. The leader of the three was a long-haired old man wearing long brown robes. Both of his hands were placed behind him. His expression was indifferent and there was a faint but shockingly majestic aura being emitted from him. Behind the elder were two men clothed in black and white respectively. The two of them appeared quite handsome. However, their eyes contained some haughtiness that was difficulty to hide. Of course, from the ripples that were being emitted from the bodies of these two, they did indeed possess the rights to be this arrogant. Additionally, there was an insignia of a black sun on their chest. Black and white crisscrossed each other like yin and yang, sinking and floating. This mark belonged to the strongest sect in the eastern Xian region, Yuan Gate. Golden threads lingered around the edges of the badge, appearing extremely respectable. A person familiar with the clothing of the Yuan Gate would be aware that this badge was something only bestowed upon the strongest disciples from the 8 divisions of the Yuan Gate. The top disciples from the 8 divisions were also known as the 8 Soul Generals. These two actually had this mark on them, while the direction that they were heading in was also the Demon Sound Mountain. This video will end here.